Good evening and welcome to the Norwood Trails Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, October 27th, 2020, if you can believe that. We are using the virtual go-to-meeting method of meeting. We meet bi-weekly, or actually semi-monthly, the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. We also try to take at least one community walk a month, and we try to have a number of events for the community as well. And we all try to get out onto the trails as much as possible. By way of we're going to roll right into our agenda here. Before I do, I just want to advise people that this meeting is being recorded by Norwood Community Media. If anyone else has a recording mechanism in place, device, if you could sing out. Otherwise, our meetings are all taped through the goodness of Norwood Community Media, so thank you, NCM. We do take minutes during our meetings, but the meetings themselves are all streamed and available on Norwood Community Media. So without further ado, I'm going to roll right into the agenda tonight. I do want to, let's see, by way of a roll call, I'm going to go top left to bottom right if I could, and that first person would be Marsha. Can you weigh in and just say hello?
Oh, I'm here.
Excellent. Brian Palmetier.
Here.
Thank you. Patty Austin. Here, Craig Austin. Excellent. You're still muted over there. Vic Babel.
Here.
Thank you. Marguerite Krepp.
Here.
Lee Leach.
Lee Leach is here as caller number 3.
Excellent. And also known as LL as well. Okay. All right. And I'm Joe Greeley. Do we have anyone else who's on the phone other than NCM? Folks are always welcome to join us electronically. All of our agendas are posted on the town website, and included on the agenda, as is the case with all of the broadcasted meetings. The meeting agenda also includes a method of dialing in either by phone or by computer to access the meeting. Next item on the agenda, review and approval of prior meeting minutes. Lee?
Hi, this is Lee. I have finished the minutes from our last meeting of October 13th, and those are being proofed right now. I just wanted to touch bases while I see Marguerite there. I sent out my most recent one this afternoon. Did you have a chance to open that, Marguerite?
I did. I was able to open it this afternoon. Prior to that, all I got was a line that said 10/27/20.
Right.
So, yeah, I was able to. It looks good, Lee. It looks good.
Okay, so those are ready for release, and they'll be sent out to the attendees of that meeting between now and our next meeting, and they'll be. I'll ask for a vote on those at our first meeting in November. In the meantime, I'm also about halfway through the meeting before that one. I'm just going to keep working backwards in time to get them caught up. So no, there won't be any actions required for today, though.
Okay, good. Thank you, Lee. As mentioned, the meetings are all taped. They're available through the archives of NCM, and we are making progress on those open minutes. Next item on the agenda, excuse me, there's a big question mark. I don't believe we have any visitors other than all of us, of course, so thank you all for coming. Moving right along, we are rocking and rolling through that agenda. Next item, completed walks, events, and trail news. So let's see, trail, first of all, do we have any trail reports? Craig and Patty, you're famous for submitting.
Yeah, I think we're coming up empty this time around.
Okay, good. You do lead the league though, so just for the public, public's information when we travel on a trail. Some of us, like Craig and Patty, are better than the rest of us, meaning me, to complete a trail report, which is basically the identification date and time and trail visited. We do have a written record of those visits. Of a special note on those trail reports are the conditions of the trails, the identification of any hazards that we might want to call to the attention of, for instance, the Conservation Commission or the DPW for further action. It's always good. We do have trail reports going back probably for about 2.5 years, and it's always interesting to go to the same trail at various times of the year and just note the differences between one season to the next on the same trail. That document, actually, I don't believe we have that document on the website, but note to self, we will try to put that document on the website. Folks can email us directly. Vic Babel, what's that email address?
Mine? I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay. Marguerite?
I have it. Oh, this is Lee. It's trails@norwoodma.com.
Okay. norwoodma.gov. I'm sure you said.
Right,
Yeah.
.gov.
norwoodma.gov. And anyone, in fact, we did get a great email today from the public. So emails are always welcome and appreciated. Feedback, we thrive on feedback. So how about
Joe, I
upcoming?
did a trail. Did you want us to talk about a trail?
Briefly, sure, go for it.
Yeah. I did just a sunset thing at the Mount Norwood. And there was a can of oil-based paint halfway up there, spilled out, and it was from Salem Paint. I used to do business with them. That can has to be 30 years old, but it was like in the middle of the field, and I couldn't understand how it got there. But I saw Tony on TV, his monthly report, and so he was talking about the solar thing and methane gas and everything. And he said, of course, you shouldn't be on top of the landfill because of the methane gas. Is that true? Is that off limits to us now?
I had heard that too about a week ago, and I had never ever heard that before.
Yeah.
So we will find out.
Okay.
Okay. And that topic will come up later on this evening.
Okay.
But thank you. How was the view?
Beautiful. It was beautiful sunset.
Okay, great. Trail reports. Anyone else want to weigh in on a recent walk in Norwood or related to Norwood? Or not? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, next up, the trail cleanup. So Marcia, would you like to outline our next trail cleanup, please?
Sure. We're going to be heading to Shattuck Park, and I have recently kind of scouted out problem areas the last time I was there. So normally I don't walk near the areas that have the glass, but I opted to go that way to kind of see what we're looking at for cleanup duties. So I think that's going to be helpful when we get there on Saturday, so that we can kind of focus on the areas that truly are an issue, which of course is always up by the rock area where there's broken glass. It is a relatively speaking smaller area, definitely not as much depth of glass as we found or people have found over at the Hennessy field. But it's definitely the most common pollution over there would be the glass. I did find some more garbage kind of stuff up that where the glass was also. The rest of the place looks really, really good. Very little to no trash anywhere. I honestly don't see glass along the majority of the trails there. So I think it's going to be, I think we're going to be able to be very successful in a short period of time if we have enough volunteers plugging away. So I know, Joe, you were going to inquire about, or someone was going to inquire about the DPW dropping off a recycle and a garbage, so that we can have them right there, use those, roll them up, use the wheels to roll them, and then to leave them to be picked up by the town. So, but I'm excited to do it. And I know Joe had mentioned to all of us, or to me and Leach, excuse me and Lee earlier about some assistance from some students. I think, definitely we could use some of them. We may not need all of them.
Okay, great. Great. Brian?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that would be great. I remember our last cleanup. I felt bad about some of the stuff that I picked up that I knew was recyclable, that since all we had were trash bags. So it's a great idea to have something where we can put recyclables in.
Yeah, good point, both of you. Good.
You might want to bring a second trash bag then to have something to put the recyclables in and keep it separate from the regular trash.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
good.
idea, Marguerite, to get the recycle bin from the town, like, an
Yeah.
actual, yeah.
I mean,
and I'm also gonna
carrying-
bring a couple garbage cans.
we've still got to carry them from where we find them to the recycle bin.
Oh, right. I hear you. Sorry. So more
Okay.
bags.
Great idea. I do have the last cleanup. The DPW provided a pretty hefty amount of plastic bags, as they say.
Oh, good.
Marguerite, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I have also inquired, I believe we should be able to get something that looks like a either recycling bin itself, or at least heavier duty trash barrels that we could use, even if it's just to transfer things from bag to barrel to recycling bucket. So we will try to coordinate that.
Joe, I'll
Yes.
excuse me, Joe, I'll bring two barrels for sure with me.
Okay. All right. Great.
The regular garbage barrels.
Okay.
Use however we want.
All right. And the plan is, what are the hours and where will we meet, Marcia?
We'll be meeting at the Nichols Street side of Shattuck, and it's from 10 to 1. So we'll meet there at 10 and we'll disperse ourselves and gather up all of our tools and equipment, and onward we go.
Anything that we should bring ourselves to help the cleanup, other than ourselves, like a rake or anything like that? Shovel.
Yes, I think we definitely should all have, if you have your gloves, gloves to work gloves for the glass issue. I'm also I'm going to bring a pooper scooper, so in case we do see any of that. But I know, I think, Joe, you might know better from the last one, but I was planning on bringing shovels, rakes, things to be able to pick glass up without having to use your hands also.
Yep.
Question.
Yeah, the last time we had brooms and shovels, not so much rakes, but the shovels especially were handy. Everyone should bring gloves. Everyone should bring this is since it is October 31st, masks are not optional, masks are required. We are also going to follow our social distancing requirements as well. We do have hand sanitizer and other protective gear, but certainly gloves and your favorite yard instrument. So.
I was thinking what we could have used a lot last time with those little garden rakes with the claws on them. A little handheld thing that for trying to dig up that grass, because the larger rakes weren't doing us any good.
Yeah, sure. Marguerite?
Parking is always an issue with that area. Are you suggesting that we park, say, at the high school and walk over? Because it's very, that's what, 4 cars worth of parking at Shattuck Park itself.
Well, Nichols Street.
Check the
I
parking.
think we'll be okay there for 2 or 3 hours.
I know somebody that lives in the neighborhood.
Probably
Yeah,
just depends on how many people show up, whether or not we have overflow.
Yeah, I guess I would recommend, when you swing by, if you see cars there, head on over to the high school. Good idea, Marguerite. Could also maybe park in the library. This might be another location. Some folks, maybe Vic, since he is a member of the Trails Committee, he's probably going to walk up the hill.
I'm gonna
But-
have so many tools, I'll have to bring my car.
That's true. But yeah, I would recommend,
You could also
would
park in
recommend-
my driveway.
I
By
would
the way, the-
recommend the high school. Sorry.
the
Go ahead,
library's officially closed. So
Okay.
parking there may or may not be advisable.
Okay, all right. Even if you have tools in the car, if you want to do a drive-by, we're going to meet, as Marcia said, on the corner of Nichols and Shattuck Park Road. So even if you did a drive-by and dropped a drop and go, there are some limited parking spots, I think 4 or 5 on the cemetery and the far end of like Bellevue, Winter Street, the upper
Mhm.
Winter. But probably the high school might be the best bet.
Yeah, that'd be closest.
Yep. So, no, that's great. Anything else about the cleanup? I will mention the email we got today, but does anybody have anything else about the cleanup? So the email we received today was an offer. I believe it's somewhere in the range of 8 to 10, probably junior high or high school age folks that have some volunteer hour requirement. They will be joining us. That's what Marsha and I were talking about today. It's there's really, with the leaves falling, there is a fair amount of work to do at the Shattuck Park, but not to the tune of 20 people or 15 or 20 people. So we will try to figure that out over the next couple of days. But certainly Shattuck Park is the destination for that day. So
If they come, will they be accompanied by some adult, or are they coming on their own?
no, they will be they will be chaperoned and monitored and eager to help, I'm sure.
Great.
But yeah, we do appreciate that offer very much. The next cleanup after this, and we're still formulating details, but we had mentioned at the last meeting, we are planning a cleanup of the Saint Street property on the weekend of the 14th and 15th of November. So we haven't ironed out the times. It'll likely be either that Saturday afternoon, the 14th, or Sunday, the 15th. So Saturday morning is out. That's the first time in a very, very long time that property has been cleaned. So it certainly will be an adventure. The thing we do want to, a byproduct of the cleanup is obviously to allow access and basically to introduce the property to the community and vice versa. So we are hoping to get some good local participation to come help us out and walk the property.
That's where we could use those 8 volunteers.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So
I think I was just
probably,
going to make that too.
yeah,
If we find on the 31st that we're done early and they need more hours, let's definitely promote the 14th to that group.
sure. Good idea. If we have enough time after that cleanup, we'll try to have a little walkabout through the area. Again, just to try to get people involved and aware of that newly purchase town property. I don't see.
So,
Yep,
I have
sure.
a question. This is Lee. On the 14th, you have tentative. Are we going to take that tentative out now and confirm it?
I have not, either way is fine with the DPW. That's a good question. Do people know that far out in advance what your schedule looks like for either that Saturday afternoon or Sunday?
Checking now.
I know everyone has a
What
busy social calendar.
My suggestion might be just a thought, Joe, and committee as in general. Let's schedule the 14th and a 15th as of the rain date.
That makes sense.
Okay, all right,
Yeah. Can't make the 14th.
Great idea.
good.
Yep.
We can't make the 14th, but, you know,
Okay, we'll try to leave some for you for next time.
sure.
We can leave a few acres for you there.
Yeah, I think it's a 7-acre lot, so.
What time were you suggesting on the 14th?
So do we want to say, do we want to say 1 to 3, I'm sorry, either 12 to 2, 12 to 3, 1 to 3?
1 to 3 is probably better. Give people time to get lunch.
Okay. All right. So
rain
Marguerite,
date?
Marguerite has spoken, 1 to 3. How's that sound? everyone?
And the
On
rain
the
date.
14th?
Yep.
On the 14th, yes.
Do we need a motion? I'll motion that.
Okay, we'll take a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Marguerite, thank you. And I think just part of the discussion, we did say a rain date of the 15th. Do people have a
Correct.
preferred time on a Sunday?
Afternoon.
We
Same
don't
time,
care
1 to
about the
3?
Patriots anymore.
Agreed,
I'm sorry.
afternoon.
I'm sorry, the who? So you want to
Yeah.
say Sunday, the 15th as a rain date from 1 to 3 as well?
Yes.
All right, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll say Brian Palmetier. I think that was a yay. Marguerite,
Yay.
All right, it's
Yeah.
yay.
thank you. Masha Mata,
Yay.
Craig Austin,
Yes.
yes. Patty Austin. I did note that Craig muted Patty. I'm not sure if that's a statement.
Hey,
or
just
not.
put your thumbs up.
Okay. Any, Vic Babel,
Yes.
Lee Leach.
That's an aye.
That's an aye, and the chair votes aye. Just so everybody's aware, anytime we have a motion, we actually have to vote on the motion, and when we vote, we have to do a roll call. So just so everybody's aware. So we don't frequently vote, but when we do, we just have to go all formal on it. Great, thank you. So Shattuck Park, October 31st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the Saint Street lot on November 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. with a rain date of November 15th from 1 to 3 p.m. Good, thank you all. Next item on the agenda, there's subcommittee discussion of the PTA communication. I don't see Kate with us tonight. If everybody's okay, I will make one comment, but then I'm going to table that if I could for the next meeting. That comment, we have talked about this a few times, and what I would ask people to do, if you could do this sooner rather than later, but anyone that wants to participate in that PTA presentation discussion, if you could just email either myself or Kate and just let us know what school or schools you'd like to manage. We don't have to go through it now, but if you could give that some thought, anyone that could participate, your assistance is very much appreciated. We do want to, this week, for instance, was school orientation basically was open house with the parents and such. So the schools are getting their feet, literally and figuratively getting their feet on the ground still. But a presentation to the schools sometime in like the second half of November might be good, and it might allow them some time to come out in the spring when the weather is a little bit better. Might give them some food for thought. So.
Is this an in-person presentation or a virtual presentation?
I believe it could be either, as far as we're concerned, but some of the schools are meeting in person, and some of them are meeting virtually. So it depends on the school, and we don't have to physically be there. I think as far as we're concerned, I think we could present virtually if we wanted to. But each one of the schools is doing their meetings a little bit differently. Last time, so that's the PTA communication. We'll table that till our next meeting.
Joe, I have a question.
Yes.
Joe, it's
Yes.
Lee. I have a question or comment. In my notes from our last meeting, there was a note to provide Kate with some materials from either Vic or Sue. I don't know if that's happened yet.
I think,
the library presentation.
I think Sue has provided it. I just had notes on an index card.
Yep.
I didn't have anything formalized. So, I mean, I can talk like off that anyway.
Yeah. Sue did provide the file, the PowerPoint that we presented at the library back a year ago, in February, was too large. So she actually cut it down a little bit. And she has provided that to Kate. So it's in the right hands.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you. So we're gonna table that. Nothing much has happened on the Boy Scout projects, but I will table that till the next discussion. We do have a couple of things that will go on over the course of the winter in two of those projects. And I will come back to you at our next meeting. We could talk about those a little bit. The Progress Norwood walk. I'm going to, Brian, if with your permission, you have provided me with access to your photos from the weekend. We did have a Progress Norwood, a joint walk on the Endine property with Progress Norwood. I'm going to ask, maybe I'll go through and ask Craig, then Lee, and then Brian, if you could weigh in just one after the other. And in the meantime, I'm going to run through some of these photos. So, Craig, anything to share on that?
Sure, I've got some photos too that I'll forward you later. We had a pretty good gathering on Sunday, and people came, some with costume, or most families came in costume. Can't exactly remember all the different costumes we had, but it was a wide variety. We had a table set up as shown right now. We had two tables, one for all the setup for the trail walk, and somebody gave guidelines as to the where to go. We had a map, of course, and we also had a scavenger hunt along each of the routes that we had drawn on that map. So you could look for various things, and when you filled out the sheet, you came back and we had a small prize for them at the end. I think all in all, everybody had fun. I think it was a great success.
Okay, thanks, Craig. And Craig, how are you at estimating? Any idea roughly how many people we had?
I was guessing about 50 or so. That's total.
Okay, great.
Great.
And they were
Wow.
staggered. It wasn't like last year where we had a big gathering and then we sent them all out. We sort of sent them out as when they were ready. So we tried the best we could to keep socially distanced. Everybody had masks. We had, I think, everybody complied, and it was, like I said, fun.
Okay, great. Thanks, Craig. Lee, comments?
Yes, just to echo everything that Craig said, I believe it was a tremendous success considering the COVID situation we're in now. We weren't even sure we were able to, we're going to be able to hold this annual event. It's the third year we've done this in partnership with Progress Norwood, and I think it's a really nice family event. It is an event where the young kids can experience their costumes in a natural trail setting, and I think that's great for fostering the trails with the families. So kudos to everybody involved. Well, it's also we did also get some news coverage from NCM. They did a taping and interviewed both myself and Craig, and hopefully there'll be something on the station following this week sometime.
Well, there was great publicity in the local Norwood paper too. Great publicity for the Norwood trails.
Great. Brian, you did capture a rare sighting of a dinosaur, I do see here.
Yeah, dinosaur right across from the lake.
I think that was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, perhaps.
Well,
Okay.
Hold that the picture of the trails, Joe.
I'm sorry? This one?
that's Woody. You know, like from
Woody.
Toy Story. That's Woody
Okay.
holding that map.
So we did, get out of there once.
Otherwise
So,
known as Nolan Palmatier.
I want to see Lee.
There was a nice,
Just one more comment. This is for people who are not familiar out there in TV land. This is the trail system, which we started at the Haas Pool, which is right where the arrow is now, and it is a trail system that's basically all throughout the back property behind the middle school. So it's a great system for families and for short walks. We also see pet owners. I know Marcia will probably comment on that too. But we do see dog walkers, and it's easy. Everything's easy. It's all cleared, and really, really nice for families.
there was a nice video on Celebrate Norwood featuring the dinosaur. And it was, got a lot of comments, which that's a nice thing too. So we got some publicity after the fact as well.
Okay. Brian, do you want any comments? Brian?
Sure. If you're going to continue with the photos, I can mention some things. There's a disproportionate number of photos of Woody, just because that's my son and my wife is who I accompanied along. If you get into the third photo, back up a little, you can
Tell me when.
there's a group photo anywhere somewhere in there on the hill where you actually had Hagrid and Harry Potter. There you go. See Hagrid
Yes.
up there? I don't know if you guys, he's in the far left side, and then I can't tell if that's maybe there's somebody dressed up like who's the head witch who can turn into a cat in Harry Potter, and you got Harry and you got Hermione there. You see,
Yeah.
so we had a group of people there. I unfortunately didn't get that group when I was taking pictures, but I got somebody from Star Wars, and I got a dragon in there, a family
Yeah.
grouping, their dog, and another one. I also took several pictures of just the process. Like you noticed that the story walk was, my son really liked that. It was kind of a story about poor wiener dog was being bullied because he was a wiener dog, and he saves the day at the end. And my son enjoyed reading each page of that along the pool fence. And then I have pictures later on of him as he identifies each of the sites. And it was really neat to have that scavenger hunt where you had the 4 pages associated with the 4 different colored trails, and that you could go around, and you had 4 stickers per page, and you tried to find. I did take close-ups of a couple of the signs showing where that's Rey, the little girl there. She's plays the character Rey from the Star Wars 3rd trilogy, and it was a wonderful fall day too. It was really neat to see the colors as we were walking along.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can fast forward through. Well, there's the story walk.
I just want to call to everybody's attention the story. A lot of this, we have to. Sue Bartlett is not with us this evening, but the story walk and the scavenger hunt was all Sue's creation. So thank you, Sue. Just call to your attention, as you mentioned, Brian, that the book that is actually still posted around the pool. So anybody that wants to go over there, I believe it's still there. But the name of the book is actually The Halloweener.
Oh,
I
I love it.
The Halloweener, the wiener dog. Yeah.
Yeah, just so people are clear. I will also say that this is the 3rd annual. We appreciate the collaboration that we've had over the last couple of years, especially with the Progress Norwood group. Sorry if I'm flying through these, but some of these we've already seen.
Yeah, I think we stalled out there. So
Yeah. Flora and fauna showed up, so that was great.
so here's
here's
one of the
one-
stops where you can see the identified. I think that one's candy corn on the tree.
Yeah.
And you found the picture of candy corn on your map that you're on your scavenger hunt list that you came and put your sticker on.
Yeah. And actually, Marguerite did such a good job. Marguerite helped a lot. Everyone helped a lot in the setup, so thank you all. Marguerite did such a good job with one of her scavenger hunt items that we still are unable to find it. So, just so you know.
It's on it's on an apple tree.
Yeah, that's. We
Well,
didn't
there's
think of that.
the Harry Potter gang hanging out on the hill there.
Yeah.
We'll have to, little ghost on the fence there.
Yeah.
So this was a
There they are.
creative day. You can see our crowd control estimator has weighed in. Craig had identified roughly 50 people, so that's great. I think last year we certainly had more back in the good old days of last year. You can see the metal bridge up here. We did identify and flag some of the trails just so people would know the color coding and which way to go for each one of those.
Mhm.
I think that's what else we get here. Thanks, Brian. These pictures are great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Click on the spider web there.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna go here.
It's about where you left
first.
off.
Yeah, so that's not the
Just a
obstacle course.
shot there.
Yeah.
There
Spider
you go.
web. And a
We
holly
never
bush.
did find the candle.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Really?
Oh, is that, we couldn't find the candle? Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
one that's on the apple tree.
Okay.
Oh, I did find a piece of blue string, a random piece of blue
No,
string.
it wasn't
with something
random.
attached to it.
I ran out of flags, so I made an arrow and
Nice.
curved it down with the blue string.
That's
But if you
great.
picked it up, then lots of luck.
So there's Woody after having completed the scavenger hunt. So nice job,
Good
Woody.
job.
Um,
And then there's a couple more pictures there showing the little it was nice to have that treat. My wife was particularly saying, you know, it was nice to have a rubber ducky to take home and not candy. And they had
Yep,
all
it
sorts of
was.
things from, I noticed one of the rubber duckies had a blue mohawk. That's the one my son picked, I think. I can't remember, but
Good,
I
cool.
recognize that guy standing next to the table.
Yeah, he loves to have his picture taken.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I wish I'd gotten there just a little earlier because it would have been cool to take some of the group shots of families that came in different coordinated costumes, but
Sure.
goal for next year.
All right, great. Thanks, Brian. But thank you, everyone who participated. Like I said, Sue's not here. Thank you. Katie Neal Rizzo coordinated the Progress Norwood side, the participation. So that was really good as well. So thank you very much. I am going to, let's see. I'm going to very briefly, the next item on the agenda, the Community Preservation Fund projects. So what I am going to do, so we do have, we did submit 3 different projects. We had a deadline of what they call the pre-bid application date, which was about, actually it was on October 8th, I think. So we did, I'll briefly walk through all 3 of them. And we did submit 3 different projects. I think all 3 of these we have spoken about. We at the committee level. One thing that was mentioned, Vic, you mentioned the Mount Norwood and the Overlook.
Yeah.
So one of the projects that we've submitted for consideration, and this project actually, the Mount Norwood is actually owned and managed by the 2/3 of it is managed by the Board of Selectmen, and 1/3 of it is managed by the Rec Department. But because of that, it's also managed by the Selectmen. So I will be sending these three projects, but specifically this project, to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration. We do need their approval, but basically what we're proposing is to build something like this. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly like this, but something that's a raised platform. And when I say raised, it might only be 2 feet off the top of the landfill. So it's certainly not a tower or anything like that. Something that's facing, if you look at this photo, and this is actually taken from what I thought was a good comparable view. It's actually from a state park in Missouri, but the concept is a good one. So we've got a platform that's accessible both by stairs and by ramp. And then once you're on the platform, and it could be, a fairly small, maybe a 6x8, 8x8 type platform. Once you're on the platform, the direction of the view, basically, this is standing behind, theoretically.
Do you have a picture? Do you have a picture, Joe? We can't see it.
Yeah, we can't see it.
Sorry, yep. I guess that's important, right? Let me go like that.
Yep. Okay, is it coming?
Okay, there you go. Sorry.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So that, so this is essentially standing behind the platform, looking southwest towards, past the Willett School, past Walpole, and with the view of like Gillette Stadium. So the theory would be, comparable to this one, and we've all probably seen something close to this. Up above in this white area, we might have distant features like Gillette Stadium. We might have Moose Hill is somewhere over here. I'm not sure actually if you can see it. from the top of the landfill. I don't remember. But there
I
are
think
other landmarks that basically you can see, even if we can't identify by view, we could still, point in the direction and say, I don't know, Providence, Rhode Island is here, and New Bedford might be here, or something like that that allows perspective. And then the nearby view and maybe some of the identification of some of the flora and fauna would be listed down below. Some of the history, maybe, we haven't quite gotten to this point yet, but possibly some of the history of the area. We might borrow some of the facts and figures that were presented at Bird Park this past week, Marguerite. As far as the history of the area,
Oh, yeah,
the,
yeah. All right.
basically the county and the pre-European settlement, but what the area looked like prior to like 1620. But this is the first of the three projects. It's for lack of a better description, the Mount Norwood Overlook, overlooking, providing kind of a raised view, but overlooking that southwest corridor that you can see, and it provides a good access and a good sunset view. So that's Exhibit A.
Hang on before you go off of this one.
Yeah, sure. Any
About,
comments? Good. Sure.
Providing compass points, so you know which direction you're facing.
Yeah, good point.
Will that be a
Um,
good platform for putting like a telescope on? I mean, we
Sure.
wouldn't have it permanently there, obviously, but
Yep, we could, even along the lines, I'm thinking of, Craig has done a great job, and we do have a couple of outsiders that have volunteered to join us for like a nature, whether it's bird watching or, Marguerite, you could lead us in a, not quite a full moon walk, but, when in a half moon situation where the viewing is better, maybe we can put a telescope or two out
Yep.
there.
Good.
We, as you say, we wouldn't affix one permanently, but that is a great idea. We could, different ways to utilize it. It's a little bit distant from the Willett School, but we could certainly turn it into a learning outdoor classroom for the Willett School. All of this, as I said, all of this has to be vetted and reviewed with the Board of Selectmen. Vic, I think it was your point about the methane release. So certainly, we would review all those cautions. If the answer is no, and here's why, because of methane, then not only would we not do this, but we would have to take further action, basically to stop recommending that people ascend to the peak of Mount Norwood, if that's the case. So I only third hand did I hear about that, so we'll have to get more information on that.
Also, if you're recommending this, have an accessibility ramp. Getting up Mount Norwood could be a bit tricky for people
Yep.
who have a disability, especially
Yeah.
in a wheelchair.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a consideration that has to be built into the plan. If we're going to make an accessible area, then it really has to be accessible. We've run into this in Bird Park where they've had steps and they said, no, that's not acceptable. And it's just like, okay, 6
Right.
steps.
Yeah. Good point. The hill, as you just said, the hill is not mobility friendly.
Yeah.
So we would have to evaluate that as it relates.
you could maybe do something similar to what they've done at Millennium Park, which is, it's like you go round in circles and gradually reach the peak on
That's right.
a paved walkway.
Yeah, but access would have to be through the recycling center, and I don't think they want to open it, when they're not open.
Yeah.
Well, you can do
probably not.
switchbacks. Switchbacks would work.
So again, this was, we did attach the the Trails Committee map with that application, so Craig and Fran, thank you. But the landfill right here is the area that we're talking about. And that set of binoculars is roughly where this overlook would go.
Could you come from the Willett parking lot rather than having to come from the DPW lot? Is there a way to get a wheelchair down the road there? And
It's hard enough for us to walk.
Yeah,
Got it.
there's-
It's pretty
getting up
steep.
the hill.
Yeah. There is a road from the DPW, but like I said, I don't know if they want access to that during all times and hours.
right. So that's the first project, the Overlook. So that that will, as I said, will need to be approved by the Board of Selectmen, reviewed and hopefully approved, but at least reviewed by the Board of Selectmen. The second project, and Marguerite, I'm going to call on you after I just quickly outline this, but the second project is relates to the Hosbrook area, basically where we had part of the community walk this past weekend. So basically the idea is, I'm not sure if I can collapse this whole, there it is. The idea basically is to build, build is the wrong verb, but to create a mobility friendly, whether that means ADA compliant or not is still open for a suggestion. But basically create a loop that could be used, by folks in a wheelchair or in a walker, using a cane, using the other end of the spectrum, someone using a stroller. And essentially we would try to come in from this leg right here coming in from the sidewalk. This is directly across from the Brookside. And I'm not advertising Carol's Auto Body, but Carol's, the brook basically passes between this property and Carol's, right, and the bridge is basically right there. So this would allow access. There's actually a bus stop a little bit further down. I think it's right here. It's across from Short Street. So what this would do, we've talked at the committee level. We've discussed this property several times as being the closest thing because of its lack of elevation. It's basically, there is no elevation here. It's a flat area. It's pretty well defined.
Great idea.
This leg, so someone could basically, and we did contemplate, the senior center bus, for instance, could pull into the parking area here. Someone could get out of their vehicle or not, come off the bus, or just walk down the sidewalk from the community or anywhere. Walk along the fire road, the access road that already exists. The pool is to the right, the playground is right here. The fire road continues on. These dashes represent the fire road as it leads down into the Endine property. And essentially the trail that we would envision would take advantage of that existing pathway. And then up here, before going into the woods, basically, you take a sharp right and follow the contour of the brook. Again, the brook travels to the outside of the trail here. Right here is where where the W is right where the dam and the channel that leads into the, I'm not sure if it's the boys' pool, the boys' pond, or the girls' pond, but replenishing the water in the ponds. So we did see the photo during the community walk of a couple of folks walking over the bridge, and that little footbridge is right here where the W is. So at this point so this is all grass area here at basically the 9 o'clock area. And this is all grassland here. So there'd be some terrain repair / maintenance that would have to be considered. From this point, this is where the spillway takes the water back into the brook. So the trail that we're envisioning would basically, and there's actually the remains of a stone dust trail that basically goes from right here, this point, around the outside of the two ponds, and then leads to the bridge right here. And then the rest, as I said, is all grassy area. So, and then this blue stub, it could be added on, but there is a fairly new easement that comes down the hill from the upper parking lot and the soccer fields. Noah Kearns' sign is right here where the soccer fields are. So this would be further utilizing existing trail work, just riding either up or down that area. That has some heavier duty gravel that we, if we did utilize this part of the trail, we would probably need to replace that gravel with something that's a little more stroller or wheelchair friendly. So that's kind of that's project number 2. If folks have a comment or want to contribute, Marguerite, you've been out there before. You want to comment on that?
When we were out there with Marge Corjay, who has a walking mobility problem, she pointed out that the grassy area, even though you could walk over it, is uneven. And that is what makes it very difficult. So it looks like putting in leveling out the area, putting in a stone dust trail that's wide enough to accommodate a wheelchair would be an extremely good thing. And then the same happening at the, what is that, east end down there by Carroll's Auto Body. If we could level that out more and again, get a stone dust trail in there, it's probably the minimal expense and probably even priority over even something like an additional bench or two, although the benches would be nice. So if we have to prioritize, let's say flattening out the trail, covering it with a material that is easier to navigate, and also getting those two areas aligned, then if we could throw in another bench or two, it would be nice to have that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marguerite.
Okay.
Anyone else want to weigh in on this?
Great
I
idea.
have, I had 2 questions.
Yeah, sure, Brian.
One was the trail, the one you show on the that follows the fire trail. Are we looking to have a trail that would be paralleling that, like right along the grass, rather than actually on the fire road itself?
No.
No, because is that fire road? Is that? I guess that's paved already at part of the way back. Is that?
It's not really paved in its entirety. Yes, to a point. It's that little area beyond that where there's really a very, right about where Joe has his cursor, and then leading up to the little bridge up there. That is the problem for people with mobility issues. It's not saying that we need to pave it per se, but leveling it out so that it was easier to navigate, and also, if possible, putting some stone dust down there. And that's a cheap solution. Relatively cheap.
Yeah, well, relatively. My other question has to do with about where it says Hosbrook in the upper left-hand corner in the map. There's a trail that runs down along the creek. I know it's got a lot of roots and things like that, so leveling that might be more of a challenge, but I didn't know if that would be a nice thing down the road to add on to the mobility part of the trail, if it's possible. It would probably require a boardwalk of some sort, though, instead, because like you say, there's tree roots and stuff down through there. Plus there's some, it gets soupy at certain times of year.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was thinking that, that's a nice trail down through there, the
issue there, Brian, is it's not very wide. And as you said, it does flood out in parts.
Got it. So
a boardwalk would be a requirement, but also a pretty heavy duty maintenance issue.
Got it.
Yep.
Nice area though.
We could
I
certainly.
was just thinking in terms of accessibility, to make it accessible. It's a nice place for everybody to see, and But
Yep.
yeah, it's a,
Maybe
but I
to
was thinking,
consider as phase
I
two
love
or,
the idea of the loop as, you know, as you've got it there, that would be a great start for getting the, you know, a nice trail
Yep.
down there.
Yeah, sure.
And especially if
anyone
you've got a
else?
kid in the pool and another one in a stroller, it was something to do, you know.
Yeah, exactly. We did think of this when we had the, this is not quite the yellow trail, but it's close to it. So, you know, we did have that in mind as well, that, you know, at 7 o'clock when someone drops their children off at the pool, you know, they could either go run errands or they could get a little walk in. This is probably about roughly a half to maybe 0.5 to 0.6 of a mile. So it's certainly not heavy lifting, but it's a way to incorporate a you know, another part of our community. So
I think it'd be a
Uh,
phase 2 or phase 3, Brian, to do that extension. Although I agree with you, it's really a neat little part of the trail. Part of its charm, though, is the fact that it is rougher.
Yeah.
So if we get the accessibility for the other parts of it first, then we'll move on from there and see if we can get something that's a little bit extended.
this area, I will say this area is jointly managed by the rec department. Basically owns the front portion of this from the pool and the playground. They also manage, although we're not coming near the tennis courts. But we will, that's another reason why in this case, we'd have to go back, we'd have to present to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration. Honestly, I don't know where the delineation is, but the back portion of this is actually managed by the Conservation Commission. I did present this to the Conservation Commission last week, and they did vote in favor of all three of these projects. They did have some recommendations, obviously, because it's under the management of the Conservation Commission. We do have to file, you know, file the appropriate filings and, you know, dot the i's and cross the t's and take the proper steps to make it not only compliant with their requirements from a wetland protection standpoint, but obviously also to make it as close to, I'm not quite sure if we do intend to call this ADA compliant, but at the very least, we want to call it mobility friendly. So
I like that.
there's a fine line in there, and we'll try to take it as far as we can. Anybody else have any comments on it? I'll just real briefly go over the third project. I would ask.
I
Sorry,
have a
Lee.
comment on that last. Yeah. Can you? I'm having a little brain fog. What is the proposal? Is it the design or the actual detail to, you know, to actually do the work?
Yeah. So in this case, in the case of the Overlook on Mount Norwood, as well as in this case, the proposal is the design and construction of both. So
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Right. So in this case, you know, it's soup to nuts. We think we have a pretty well-defined path already. Travis, Mark Ryan, the Conservation Commission, everybody's on board. We haven't formally got the Board of Selectmen's approval, but
Yeah,
everybody.
got it.
Okay, thank you.
I got it now.
Joe, on Mount Norwood, would that include better access up that hill from the trail?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
We did include that in the verbiage.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic.
I will say, just to kind of tuck this away if you could, but one thing that I would like to get at the end of this discussion is consideration of a vote by the Trails Committee on these three projects. So if you could just tuck that away. So this third project, I think we've all been, it might take me a bit to actually find a map of the University Ave project. or property, I should say. And in this case, I'm showing the actual verbiage, the actual application that we've submitted. Essentially on University Ave, and this is the area, if you remember back to the New Year's Day walk that we took on University Ave, this would strictly be coming in from the street, so it doesn't consider any access through the golf course or anyone else. It's an in and out using entirely conservation area. And the project, let's see, the project description. So the project description, in this case, it's the University Ave, in parentheses, Concom property, trail feasibility study and initial design. So this is not, this, contrary to those other two, Vic, to your point, or Lee, I think, this is a feasibility study. This one, this not only is this conservation property and it borders wetlands, but it's also in, and Craig and Patty can probably weigh in on this. It's actually in the Fowl Meadow ACEC area. So there are certainly many more permitting requirements and entities that we would need to present to. But essentially what we're proposing as a phase one here, it's not labeled as phase one, but hopefully it will be. It's an initial study by in-house town personnel and contractors, providers. Work will include, I won't read the whole thing. Work will include flagging of the area, identification of area features and issues, and which is much more formal, I think, than what we've done, and provide potential trail and open space opportunities on the property. Final result will also include potential connections, but not actual connections. Final result will also include potential connection identification, might be a better way to say that, to abutting or nearby properties, both public and private, as well as the identification of infrastructure needs such as access and parking. Estimated timeline should be roughly 3 months, again, just for this initial phase one from start to finish, excuse me, resulting in an actionable document for the town's future use. So it's, we're certainly not talking chainsaws. We're talking number 2 pencils. And that area, you look at that and say, well, wouldn't it be great if we just went out there and, created a path? And that would be great, but there's a lot more to it. And that's why, as opposed to the other 2 projects, that's why this is a little more, there's a little more heavy lifting involved. There's a lot more upfront work that needs to be done.
I'm running out.
Yep. And, basically that's it. As I said, we did present this to the Conservation Commission last week. They were in favor of all 3 projects, obviously with cautions and with permitting requirements satisfied. But at least as presented, specifically, like in the case of the University Ave, as presented as only a phase one, they were all, in fact, I think it was unanimous. They were in favor of it. So,
and that
anybody have
doesn't
any-
include the golf course then, Joe, right?
Nope, does not include access to any other property other than that slice of conservation property. I did go out, we've mapped it before. I did go out and map it again over the weekend, and it's roughly 1.1, 1.2 miles round trip. And it's essentially, as we've done before, it's essentially it's a horseshoe shape. And, it's phase one. So anybody have any questions, comments, things I left off that we should have included maybe, or?
I think that's a
No, it
very
sounds
good
good, but I'm
project.
just wondering why. Okay. I was just wondering why you wouldn't include the access from the skating club. while they're willing to let us have access.
Yep, that's a, excuse me, that's a good point. The office building is between the skating club and the property as well, so we would incorporate both. The access that we were granted was early on. I won't say it was theoretical, but it was very loose. That would certainly have to be fine-tuned and not to go all formal, but probably like institutionalized a little bit firmer. We'd have to have like an easement agreement with them. What they initially proposed would be great, but we don't want to go there yet because they're basically just getting their feet on the ground. And frankly, I'm not sure if we're ready to do that either. That could certainly be, we did make provision for that in this phase 1 discussion, but that's totally on them. We don't want this phase 1 project to be contingent on that in any way.
Would it hurt if I talked to the general manager?
I think a discussion would be preliminary. You could certainly discuss the fact that we are proposing something on the University Ave conservation land. That would certainly confirm that we are, moving forward with something. But I'd hesitate, and I would certainly recommend that you hesitate to go, to try to push it any further. I think there's a lot of time between now and the time that we'll be utilizing that property, and frankly, they haven't figured out what to do with their property either. But certainly, if you want to take up that would be great. Sure.
Well, we're working with him on the 150th anniversary of the town, so we've met him a couple of times.
Sure. That would be great. Thanks, Vic. Brian?
Yeah, it does look like you've kind of implied in that proposal where it's saying, while we're completing this trail, we're going to look into the possibility of potential connections to, other trails or private kind of things. So if we had a little bit of an idea of where those access points would be, if and when we used it later, that can all be part of that initial proposal of, looking at if we do connect, where would we connect? But I think you're right. It's probably premature to be asking, to add it to our trails system or something if
Right.
we're just starting to set up there. So
Okay, good point. Thanks, Brian. Craig and/or Patty?
Yeah, where is the parking access? Is it that sort of hot dog, what was called the hot dog stand area? And if so, how many cars? Or is that to be determined in that study?
Feel free to talk amongst yourselves while I scramble.
well, I remember that parking area, you can only fit like a couple of cars, right? And so naturally we'd want to have a few more slots.
Yep, keep talking.
Is that where the entrance would be? Or are we talking about closer down to where Granger's on the corner? Is it further up on University Avenue?
There?
It seems like there's a lot of space off that University Ave to make a larger parking.
Yep. So to answer your question, again, we're strictly talking phase 1 here,
Yep.
and we're strictly talking about the conservation property.
Yep.
That New Year's Day walk that we had seems like a long time ago now. We actually pre-pandemic, that's right. We actually contacted both the skating club, which is right here, and the office building, Meditech building, which is right here. We actually got specific but limited access on a one-time basis that allowed us to park in this area and walk through the property. This is the pond where the pump house is,
Mhm.
right? And so we did access it there.
Yep.
We would, to the point of potential future collaboration, we would certainly leave that approach as a possible access point for joining this property with something else. We would consider access in that same general area that we accessed it before, but frankly, we don't have current access to the golf course or the office building property. So we don't want to, we want to tread lightly. This is a long-term arrangement and a partnership. So we don't want to go too far out on a limb, literally. You can see at the top half, this is University Ave. This start line and finish line right here is in that hot dog stand area. So we've already discussed the probability and the potential of clearing that area. There's an easement which we would have to satisfy any requirements involved. That's a natural gas line easement. So parking on top of that might be an issue, but we could certainly work our way around that. But right now, again, this phase one, we're only talking about this conservation property. So I don't have the water view, but basically Purgatory Brook travels right just at the bottom of this horseshoe, and it provides the border, creates the border at the I guess that would be the southwest part of the golf course. Right. So
You're showing that red as where the potential trail would be, because isn't most of that wooded area, is that the Norwood Forest or whatever? Is that?
So this is all conservation land, and this is just my own. I actually walked the property with Holly Jones 2 weeks ago, maybe. And while we were walking it, I actually mapped it. So if we all can remember, these are the two ridges, down one ridge and back up the other. And then this area in between, it's all dry right now, but in the springtime, right here at that connection point, it's almost unpassable. So we would have to consider a bridge or something right here. All of this land, so somewhere over here, and I don't really, frankly, don't know where it is. Somewhere over here, it stops being conservation land. All of this area here is owned by the light department, but it's still town owned, and certainly that could be like phase something. Fill in the blank. All of this here is all wetlands, so it's less likely that we'll be able to do anything with this in the direction of the airport. So again, this phase one, we're strictly talking about this area right here. So, but thank you. All these are definitely good questions. They definitely help. So, great. Any other?
This is Lee. I just wanted to make a comment. I think all three of the projects are I would support them. Just a detailed comment on that last point, Joe. When we're considering new trails like this, I think it's wise to take advantage of upland areas and avoid going into wetland areas for a number of reasons. None of which to say is that the trails aren't sustainable or is easily sustainable for the long run, whereas in a wooded higher elevation, which is where you guys walked, you and Holly walked the other day on the red path there, makes total sense for a new trail system. So I would be in favor of all three of these proposals.
Okay, great, good, thank you. Let's see.
Should we have a vote?
Yeah, sure. Just gonna, while we're talking here, this again, that's that same loop we just looked at. You can see actually it's with my short legs, I called it 1.1, but it's actually 0.84 miles.
Hmm.
So, sure. Do you want to, I entertain a motion?
I move that we accept
Second.
all three as
With the motion.
proposals that, no, it's just that presented to.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, good. Thanks, Brian. Vic, was that a second? Or someone?
That was
Second?
a second, premature second.
Good, thanks, Vic. Thank you.
Second.
Further discussion, we could certainly, if people want to talk about one versus the other, we could divide if you'd rather take a vote on individually, but we've got a motion for all three. So any further discussion?
I think that the
Do we
scope
need to
as
prioritize
proposed is
them?
good.
Scope, good. Good, thank you, Marguerite. That's a good point. And actually, I neglected to say that, or maybe I did actually, these are applications to utilize community preservation money. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, but we could as part of our vote, you could make that as a friendly amendment to the motion if you would so desire. Frankly, I'm not, the Community Preservation Committee might consider that prioritization. So food for thought if somebody wants to make an amendment.
Joe, I would personally not be able to make a vote on which one is a priority because I don't believe I know enough about it from all this. I think all three, that's just my personal opinion, is I think all three are great proposals. And I think I personally don't think we have still quite enough information to prioritize other than preference.
Well, do we have to prioritize?
No, I was just
No.
asking in terms of if there's limited funds and they have to say, well, you can only have two of the three. I guess if they come back to us with that, then maybe
Yeah.
then we bring it up. But in the meantime, if we just vote all three, that's probably, I don't
Right
have
now
to
we're-
amend my amendment or my,
We're voting our support.
If we prioritize, it's easy for them to chop 1, 2, or 3 of them.
got it.
Mhm.
And the other thing, just to go back to the process, these are proposals that will ultimately be presented and voted on by town meeting in May of 2021. So there's certainly a long timeline on this. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Any other further comments on the motion?
Only that it has to be submitted by a certain time in order to be considered at the May town meeting. So, there's a short timeline for that.
Correct, right. So, okay. Seeing no further comments, so the motion duly seconded is on all three of these. It was mentioned, but the motion was not amended to prioritize them, so it's basically all three. Everybody's clear with that? So I'm gonna do again, just because we're voting, we'll take a roll call. Marsha Mata,
Yes, I support the proposed.
thank you.
Oh,
Ryan Palmetier,
Aye.
Craig Austin,
Right?
Patty Austin,
aye.
thank you. Vic Babel,
All right.
Marguerite Krepp,
Aye.
Lee Leach,
Yes, and go for it.
thank
All
you.
three.
Thank you. And the chair votes in favor. So that was a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, one and all. I should have said this too. I did forward these to all of you about a week and a half ago. So you should have those in your inbox as well. Cool. Well, great. I thank you for your patience. I appreciate that. The other thing about the community preservation timeline is that these projects and any other projects, as long as the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, approves them, will be presented in May of 2021. The application window is only open once a year. So for anyone who misses the window basically has to wait a year until the next submittal period opens up. So
Do we know when
Um,
that is? When is that window?
It won't be the next window. So this window closes on November 13th, I believe, the whatever that Friday is.
Coming up pretty quick then. Yeah.
The 13th, yes.
Yeah.
And so the
Friday.
window won't open again until a year from now, a year from October. So.
Also,
good, thank you.
I have
Yeah,
one
sure.
one general comment and sort of in support of these projects, and that is members, anybody in the community is encouraged to write a letter to the Community Preservation Committee in support of these projects, and they will go with the application.
Lee or Vic, whoever it was, is the address on the piece that Joe sent out to which, or the people to whom we should send such letters?
Well, shouldn't we send it as a committee
Well,
since we voted
Okay.
unanimously?
we could.
We would have to vote on that, I believe, as a separate vote.
So
We can.
So
Okay.
along those lines, yes, we could, as a committee, there should be some proof that we voted in favor of that. But I think the comment was more to the community. But if the committee so desires, I'll entertain a motion for the committee to write a more formal letter of support.
Okay, move that the secretary be directed to write a letter in support of these proposals on behalf of the Trails Advisory Committee.
I second that motion.
Joe, you're
muted, Joe.
muted.
Some people would prefer that, but any further motion made and seconded? Thank you very much. Further discussion on a letter of support?
It doesn't necessarily have to be the secretary, it could be Joe. But we need to designate someone with the responsibility to write the letter, and I'm not volunteering.
Okay. You said that very quickly. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll take my
Joe,
best shot
also,
at it. Great.
I think Lee was making a point for the community also. So if we could somehow make sure that the community knows where, in fact, they can send their letters of support, that would be great.
Yes.
Okay, sure. So,
I think if you do CPC to town hall, that'll work.
yep, so there are two avenues that people could, well, let me do this. Let's close out our motion. So all those in favor of a motion, say aye, or I can't do that. Masha,
Aye.
thank you. Brian Palmetier,
Aye.
Patty Austin,
Aye.
Craig Austin,
Aye.
thank you. Vic Fable,
Aye.
aye. Marguerite Krupp,
Aye.
Lee Leach,
Sure.
and the chair votes in favor of that too, so it's unanimous. Thank you all. So to the point of the community has two avenues. They could send a letter to a letter, if they so desire, in favor or opposed, either way, to Norwood Town Hall, 566 Washington Street, Norwood, Mass. 02062. And it should go to the attention of the Community Preservation Committee. They also have the avenue, anyone who's more tech savvy and wants to go this route could send an email to the initial CPA, that stands for Community Preservation Act, cpa@norwoodma.gov. So they could certainly do that. Folks in the community can certainly contact any of the committee members for further information. So, all right, that's great.
How are we going to refer to this in this letter or the email? In other words, do you have a title for this thing? It's in support of the LURP proposal for such and such?
The proposed projects, the projects proposed by the Trails Advisory Committee for consideration for funding by the
Okay.
Community Preservation Fund. Yeah,
Got it.
good, thank you. Good question. Okay, thank you for your patience. Last item on our agenda tonight is a member's minute. I think we covered pretty much everything else. I will ask that people consider, if we break early, I will ask that people start considering both a December walk and a New Year's Day walk. So,
Can I ask a quick question before we moved on? You got in our attachments, there was a little video about dog walking. Is that for a future potential talk, or we're going to talk about that tonight? I think it was a video from Marcia.
That was from Marcia.
That's
yep,
me.
actually, good point. Sorry, I think I skipped. I might
I
be
didn't see
working.
Yeah.
that,
on-
but
Was that
I knew it was
intentional?
part of our
Is that
attachments. so.
intentional, Joe?
Yeah, sorry about that. Good point. Thanks, Brian. I'm gonna go like this. Like,
Matter of fact, the video I had kind of chopped off after 1 minute and 13 seconds. So I don't know if you've got a more complete one.
No, not
So-
really. I'm gonna talk about, I just kind of threw that out there for something for people to see prior to me kind of just explaining my thoughts.
so
I think it was
Marcia,
a good thought.
Marcia, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. I'll make this pretty brief. I just wanted to initiate a kind of a different way for us to expose the community to our trails, and that being by initiating periodic trail walks with dogs. So like we've been doing with the community, inviting the community to join us for walks, I thought hosting, the same exact thing, but basically inviting people with their dogs, because well, the idea of it would be basically to invite the community to walk on the trails we already have established with their well-behaved and leashed dogs, educate them about the new trails, but I thought it would be a great opportunity to also educate them about dog walking on the trails and the etiquette that they need to kind of follow, and making it fun. So I think I'm, capable of doing that, since I do it as a profession, but also, do it with my own pets. I think it's one of the topics that keeps coming up with people saying, the poop places, or I guess what I'm trying to do is educate the people who own pets, the whys of their proper etiquette on the trails, so that then in fact animals will be allowed more in our town and through other things. But also, a lot of us people with dogs don't know all the trails. I've been with lots of friends who walk every single day and multiple trails, but they're really not aware of the trails we have right here in Norwood. So I thought it would be just another way of, exposing the trails to the community, and along with it, address, etiquette on the trails when it comes to walking your dog. That's really the basic, idea behind it. Just to basically show people what there are for trails that they can walk their dogs on leash, and while doing so, explaining, etiquette and also the laws of the town and why, and making it more, a little more understandable as to the whys. A lot of it, it has nothing to do with just you can't, but let's talk about whys. And I can definitely address a lot of that with people. That's my proposal, is basically just teaching dog owners the proper use of our trails. That way we're all in a better win-win when we're all out on the trails.
I think it's a great idea,
Sounds
Marcia.
good.
Have you seen the signs at Bird Park lately about scooping the poop and so forth and keeping your dog
Yeah,
on a
I
leash?
have.
I think they're pretty good.
They're fabulous. They're
And if we
fabulous
could-
because they're friendly, and they're not
Exactly.
they're not trying to be like do it or else. They're I've seen it, very nice. I love that.
if we had similar signs for our trails, it might help. I
Agree.
like it.
And I think,
I like
and I think,
it.
and I think it's even so, for example, I'll give an example. I was walking with someone the other day and their dog pooped off trail, but it wasn't far off trail. And in my personal opinion, if I can reach it, then it should be picked up. And also, if my dog can reach it, it should be picked up. So the reasons, and those reasons I can go into as we're doing a walk. And depending on the number of people who show up, I'm pretty confident that we can social distance. The animals will be on leash. I'm not, I'm not concerned about confrontations with the pets. I would carry what I usually carry, a spray if there was ever a serious fight. But that's not kind of what you would get for people. That people, I mean, I have dogs and sometimes I've had dogs in the past that don't walk well with others. I don't take them. So most people are like that. They're not going to take, and I don't expect it to be, a huge number, but if it was a larger number, I would kind of maybe, express a few of the things up front. People just walk on their own, or I lead it so they see where it goes to and from. And then, regroup at the end and just thank everyone and kind of say, tell other dog owners, about the trails. And the other thing is a lot of people, that want to go off leash, I can help them understand why we don't want to be off leash, but also I can give them ideas to make an off leash experience with longer leads, with treats and different things you can do to encourage a fun walk with a dog that you normally would say has to be off leash.
Yeah, I think, Marcia, I think that's a great idea. As a matter of fact, one thing I learned from your little video was I didn't realize that there was an issue of dogs being able to catch diseases from each other.
Oh, yeah.
I used to think of, poop as, that if it's off the trail, that's extra fertilizer for the plants. But
yeah, no.
Don't realize it's almost like spreading an invasive species out there. And then you get another dog that sniffs some other dog's poop that's off the trail. And now you have that dog susceptible to whatever disease is in that fecal material. And
so I would explain it because I would explain it too, because I also, as a dog lover and animal lover, I don't agree with it when people say, oh, don't, do this, this, and this because you'll get disease. It's not that easy either, but it's education and people learning how to get it and what causes the diseases, including wildlife. So it's more, so it's definitely educating people that own pets because for their pet safety. And then, it's good to know. But that's why, but I don't want to scare people either, because I'm not one that believes that we should be like, oh, pets shouldn't be around because we can get this from them. That's not any more true than being in your own backyard or in your own home, or if you're out walking on the street where another animal has been. So, it's not scary.
It's also the fact that it's not extra fertilizer. It is detrimental to the plants. It's a lot of people think that, and then they have to point out, no, actually, that's going to kill the plant.
Exactly. Yeah.
So thanks, Marcia. I'm going to do this with the information that Marcia just described. I think maybe let's do this. Let's table this discussion. This basically is a request for us to sponsor one of these walks as a committee. So unless anybody has an objection, I'm gonna ask that we table this discussion and come back to it 2 weeks from now at our next meeting. And then we can try to fine tune it a little bit, kind of dot some I's, cross some T's, and maybe come up with something. I think it's very important for us to define, if we were to take this route, it's very important for us to define what this does entail and what it does not entail. And that entail is not on purpose, Margaret.
I was thinking.
But I think it's a great idea as long as it's presented and hosted in the right way. So
I agree, Joe, and I did start drafting up some type of a post, because I think it would be, the idea is, it's nothing more than showing trails, and then with it, take the opportunity to talk and educate pet owners. And I would propose, initially, the first walk to be from the Father Max to the Willow, is just my personal thought, because it's nice and wide and big.
Okay. All right, great.
Thank
Great.
you.
So thanks, Marcia. So we'll circle back. We'll keep that on the agenda. It actually
Great.
was, I'm looking at the draft agenda that I'm looking at it. And it was actually on the agenda that I sent you, and I apologize. I'm looking at a previous version, so.
That's okay. Thank you.
It is on the agenda that you had, so. All right, it's now 8:46. I'm going to ask, from a member's minute standpoint, does anybody have anything that's really kind of earth-shattering that you want to present or discuss? Marguerite?
Just a suggestion for an item for next meeting. And that is, I received an email from Judith Howard about the next town meeting, that they're going to be talking about some of the areas that we are concerned about, including the Boston Providence Highway overlay district that they're going to be voting upon. And that, I think, is also in early November. I think we have time before the next meeting to discuss it at the next meeting, but I'd like to request that be added to the agenda.
Okay, sure. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. So specifically, what you'd like to discuss the properties that town meeting is evaluating, just so I.
Yeah, town meeting is, wait a minute. It's not town meeting.
Yep, it is on
is it
November
the-
12th. Town
November
meeting.
12th. Okay. And Judith Howard, who has presented at our meetings before, brought this up. And she's a town meeting member. There were several items in her email, but one concerns the Boston Providence Highway District as an overlay district. And she's talking about things like the infringement of developments like car storage and so forth upon conservation land. And that we should be aware of that. Part of it is a pumping station. Some of it is wetland that could be affected by development and would affect our hiking trails. And so it goes
Okay.
on and on at some extent, but I think that we should certainly take that up and look at it at our next meeting.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, there's certainly a number of properties on it. Just if it's only one of the topics on town meeting is an overlay district on Route 1.
Mhm.
So certainly, as you mentioned, there's a number of properties like Ellis Field in that area off Codman Street. That's could be potential walking trails, and we wouldn't want that turned into car storage either.
Yeah, I think she's talking about the other side of the street because of the car
okay.
dealership that's right there.
Yep. Okay. All right, good.
Thank
We will add that to the agenda. Thanks, Marguerite.
Okay.
Anyone else have a suggestion, comment? Good. We do have a lot going on, and I appreciate everybody's contribution to the effort here. It is, we do want to stay. We do want to stay on target, but it's always good to keep things fresh and come up with some new ideas. So, go ahead, Vic. Was that a Vic? Vic, I don't think we can hear you, so.
I think he's muted.
Nope.
You've been in and out for a couple of minutes. No, the only thing I was thinking of is when we walk behind the dog compound there and the pump house, Central owns a lot of that land back there, and if somehow we could make a deal with him to give it to the town, because it's probably not of use to him that far in. And then we could eventually go from the dog area right to the golf course and the conservation land,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
way in the future.
Someday we'll take over the world, right?
That's right.
But no, that's we have talked about that before, as far as starting at the animal shelter and maybe the pump house and going all the way down to Granger. So that would be a nice walk in the woods.
Yeah.
That's a Lee Leach size walk. Okay, no, that's good. Good. Well, without further ado, our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, November 10th, and then again Tuesday, November 24th. Between now and then, we have the Shattuck Park cleanup on October 31st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Saint Street lot is November 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. We will talk at our next meeting.
Whoops.
We will talk at our next meeting about the dog walk. Thank you, Masha. We did vote on those 3 projects for community preservation consideration. Thank you. And again, I just want to thank everybody who helped out either at the event yesterday, the community walk, or contributed to it somehow. But I think it was very successful. So one more thing to put on our list of achievements. I'll entertain a motion, unless somebody has anything else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Marguerite,
And a
thank you.
second.
And a second by Lee Leach. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Marcia, Craig, Patty, Vic. It looked like several ayes at the same time. Brian, Marguerite, good. Lee Leach, okay. And the chair votes aye as well. So all those in favor say aye. We just did that. Good. It's now 8:52 p.m. and we're calling for the adjournment of 8:55. So calling for the adjournment of the Trails Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you all.